And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Xperience. I am your host, as always, Michael Lindenbaum, and we are here live at SpartaCon, who is the sponsor, which was August 15th and 16th in Waldorf, Maryland at Blue Crab Stadium. Today is my special guest, as this is actually not just a regular podcast, it is also a panel. Yay! Yay! 3 cheers. Yay! It's okay, Kristen. It's okay. And what joining me with today is author Kristin Secorsky. Kristen, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm surprisingly better since I got to get some selfies with some celebs before we got to do this.
Yeah.
Now, how has your time been here so far at SpartaCon? Because we are at the very beginning of day 2. They're actually just letting in all the regular attendees right now. So how was day 1?
Day 1 was pretty good for me. I had a lot of people stop by my table, and I brought a lot of free swag for people to come by and pick up some goodies and everything. And
you can never go wrong with free swag.
Oh no, I really love free stuff.
I'm going to get more free swag.
Yeah, you should come by and get more.
I'm going to get more.
Left. Yeah.
I'll take home like 20.
Okay.
Okay, maybe not 20. And I'm getting a phone call. I'm going to avoid that. This is what happens when you live podcast. And so, of course, your series is called the Immortal Gladiator series.
Yes.
Can you explain how did they come about and what inspirations did the show Spartacus have on them?
Well, they came about, I like to watch documentaries, and I had seen one on the eruption of Vesuvius, and there was a story about, a woman who fled, and she was alone, and she ended up taking sanctuary with 2 gladiators till their death. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be incredible if maybe she was in love with one of them and went to meet him before they died. And the idea kind of came to me for the Immortal Scrolls from that. And I've also been fascinated with the paranormal my whole life, so I wanted to include that in there. So there's vampires and werewolves in the series as well. So, my immortals.
Do the vampires glitter like in Twilight?
No. And the powers are very different. They can go in sunlight. They're just weaker.
But they don't glitter.
They don't glitter. They don't burn up in the sunlight.
Oh, okay.
They have, super strength, super smell, super sight, super hearing.
Now you have 3 books out. You have the Immortal Scrolls,
mm-hmm.
the Immortal Champion, mm-hmm. which was actually, I believe, your most recent book.
Yes, that's the one I just released.
And then you also have Immortal Beginnings, Amara. Now, for Amara, that is your prequel book.
Yes, that one was written second, but it is the prequel. My villain, she needed her origin story. It did not fit. It would have been too complicated to put it in the Immortal Scrolls. The timeline would have gotten messed up. It would have been the plot would have been everywhere. So I went back and I wrote the prequel for her, showed how she came out to be, how she was cursed with her immortality, and how she didn't accept it, and she took it to the dark side, I guess you could say. And then where she got the idea of going to Rome, because she was in Britannia, and she fell in love with the Roman way, went and started her ludus in Rome with her werewolf mate, which they were a very unlikely couple. And they started out buying slaves, and then if they could survive their first match in the arena, they were rewarded with immortality.
Now, which book would you recommend people to start reading first of the series, in your opinion?
You could just start with the prequel. Go Amara, Immortal Scrolls, and then the Immortal Champion. The fact that the prequel was written second, it was written in a way that you could read the Immortal Scrolls first. That one's a little bit more lighter and romantic. There's gladiator action in there as well. And then they overlap at the end, but from different characters' point of view. So you won't spoil it by reading one or the other first. But if you want to know why Amara is so wicked in the Immortal Scrolls, it'd be good to start with her story. But that book is a little bit darker.
Now, what inspirations did the show Spartacus have on the book?
Well, the first book came out about the time when the show was first starting. And I obviously picked up on Spartacus because gladiators and Romans were something I was always fascinated with. I have a love of ancient Rome. And the show, I guess, it really inspired, to make my books really historically accurate. Like the show is, historically accurate. Put a lot of research into the books. And I wanted it to be, have the feel just kind of, Spartacus, they didn't hold back in the show. It's racy, it's violent, and I guess it let me be a little bit bolder with my writing to keep it racy and gory.
Which character was your favorite character to write?
Actually, my villain, Amara. She is someone you love to hate and hate to love. She's devious. If you want to compare her to a character from Spartacus, I would compare her to Asher.
Asher's a tricky guy.
Maybe Alithia. Yeah, you could compare her to that kind of deviousness.
All right. Now, we've actually gained some more people. For those who have just walked in, this is a live recording of the panel for the podcast, The Xperience, which is sponsored by SpartaCon. For those who don't know, I'm actually over in Section 7 with a table for podcasting. Yay. Now, I'm actually going to open up the floor. Please speak loudly because one mic. Anyone have any questions for Kristin Secorsky?
I have a question. How did you get the name of your main character, Androcles?
Oh, my main character, Androcles. I actually had written the Immortal Scrolls, and I did not have a character name for, the main hero. And I needed something, because that book does take place in the past and in the future. And I wanted to get a name, an ancient Roman name that I could have shortened, and he could kind of have the same kind of name. So I was looking through there, and I just love Andy Whitfield. He was fabulous. He was my favorite character. And so it's kind of a tribute to him. My character's modern name was Andy, and his ancient Roman name was Androcles. Shortened for that. That's a good question.
Now, you also do films. You work with your brother
Yes.
in film production.
Yes.
Are any of these books potentially in the production for film?
I would like them to be. In my spare time, when I'm not working on newer novels, I am trying to adapt them to screenplay to see if they get picked up, or I'll just produce it myself.
And I've done that, and it takes a long time to do a
It does.
film. And what films have you done so far? Because you have told me before that you did work on others.
Yes, I have done some short films for the A3F. It's out of Arizona. It's almost famous film festival, and they were 72-hour challenges or 48-hour challenges. We got our team together. I wrote the screenplays. Everybody else worked on set. My brother worked with the filming and the production. I financially produced them, and 2 of them made top 20 in the film festivals, so they were award-winning. I have another one. It's a little horror short film. It's still being edited right now. And I've also adapted a novel called The Dollhouse. There's a subtitle to it. It's like a true tale of
Dolls
like horror
coming
kind of
alive.
thing. Yeah.
Beware the doll, it lives!
It's by author Alan Hoxie, and I adapted it to screenplay, the whole novel. And that's in pre-production. Means, financial backing and everything. We're probably going to run a Kickstarter for it. But it's almost ready to go.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, when are you working on book 4 of the Immortal Scrolls series?
That one I'm going to start soon. It's so funny. My computer broke on me about a month ago. And I've been going around to conventions recently, so I did not have time to write, and I just didn't go buy a new computer yet. So when I get back from SpartaCon, I plan to go buy my new computer and start writing the 4th book.
You couldn't just do it on a legal pad?
I could have.
That's how I wrote Cosplay Life. I literally wrote Cosplay Life. Each page was an idea of what I wanted each scene to be.
My thoughts come out a lot faster than I can write, so it just doesn't work.
I just did mine during my lunch breaks at work. Just sitting there, yell at my coworker, Jim. Hey, Jim, I know you're directing, but what do you think of this? And I just tossed the legal pad halfway across the room at work. So, true story. He really did. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, Kristin. I just wanted to know, how long have you been writing? Was it something that you always aspired to do growing up when you were in high school?
Yes, it started when I was in high school. I dabbled a little bit in poetry and short stories. My sophomore year, I wrote a vampire short story, and my teacher loved it, and she actually said, "You're going to be the next Anne Rice, Kristin." I just love that compliment. I don't think I'll ever measure up to Anne Rice, because she's just fabulous, but it was such a motivating compliment that I just kept pursuing my writing. I had written another one. It was for an assignment, I remember, that we had to copycat an author, and mine was Edgar Allan Poe, so I really got into the dark type of writing there. Then after that, I actually did write on a legal pad kind of thing. I started with a pirate romance story. And I got about halfway through it, and I was frustrated. I was like, this is just awful. And I tore up every page, and I just threw it away. After that, I took a little bit of a break because I went full-time in college for my teaching degree. And then I pursued my master's in education as well. And then I think it was when I had my first daughter, I was, at home mom kind of thing, and I picked up my writing again. Went to Boston, we were traveling around, I went to Walden Pond, and it really did. It inspired the setting from a novel that I have complete on my computer, but it's my first one, and it's not published at all. It needs to be edited and cleaned up, and I actually just, when I started writing the Gladiator series, I just picked up with that, and it was just, the ideas were coming better. That I haven't gotten back to that novel yet, but I will eventually.
Now, I want to talk about writing techniques, because obviously my writing technique is one way, your writing technique's another. Our friend Iris in the front row has another. So, like, for me, when I wrote Cosplay Life, I wrote everything in bullet points first before I turned it into a screenplay. This time around, for the next film I'm working on, which, sorry guys, you got to wait for September to hear that announcement, because we've already recorded that one. I'm not going to spoil it. But the next film, it's kind of the same way, where I'm writing the story, but also putting bullet points in there, and then sending it off to my friend to write the screenplay. When you wrote your books, did you try maybe doing bullet points at first and then building everything together?
The story was entirely in my head when I got the idea. I pretty much knew how I wanted to start it, what I wanted to happen in the middle, and in the end. So when I got the idea, I wrote out about a page summary. I just did a summary of how this was going to go so I could follow along. And as I wrote and thought of character names and everything, I just kept a separate spreadsheet of this character's name, their description. Because, so you get so far into the novel writing, and you have like 200 pages in your Microsoft document, and you can't really, it's so hard to go back and like, what color eyes did that character have? So anytime I would put it, I'd put a little description. Okay, this is so-and-so's father, and this is the eye color, this is the hair color, these are his characteristics. So I wouldn't have to search for that information if I kind of forgot, because you start out with like 4 characters and you know them really good, but as soon as you start adding minor characters and subplots, it gets out of control.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, with that was my question. With the characters, I see that you have the description. Were there any people in your life or personalities that you kind of used for your characters? Where the inspiration came for creating your characters?
Things in my life do have an influence on maybe plot lines or characters, yes. I actually have to say my character Lucian is inspired by Manu Bennett. He's not in my life. I just admire him on the show, and his physical attributes and the way he kind of moves and holds himself, his voice, that was like an inspiration for that character, definitely. But yeah, there's just, things that happen in my life, in my friends' lives, phone conversations we've had. It carries over into something like, that would be good for this, for that, and so. And
it helps bring out better stories.
Yes.
Especially when you bring it out from real life.
Yeah, because you write what you know, basically. So.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jenny. You really like to put a little bit of the paranormal touch in the books. Is that something that you like to maybe continue with in the future? Or?
Yes, I've branched out. I write under a pen name as well. I write erotica under a pen name. And those are like contemporary. I have another short story under my name that's modern, but it has a paranormal flair. I've got astral projection in there. So there's always a hint of something, in my books. I have another series that I'm working on. It's leaning more towards the fantasy genre with dragons and elves and wizards and stuff. So there's just going to be fantasy or paranormal most of my stories, because it's stuff I love, for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little about adapting a novel to a screenplay, what the differences are between writing a fiction and then adapting it to a more kind of straightforward format?
Very good question.
When I did not go to formal school training for this. This was something that my brother was like, hey, I've got this book. I was given the creative rights. Maybe you want to work on this with me. So I read it, and I actually went to a program called Celtics. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, it's Celtics.
And they have a demo script, The Wizard of Oz, and I literally just looked at how they did it. And basically, when you're writing in the script, you're going to have like a little blurb of action, and it's kind of straight to the point. This is, what they're doing. This is what's going on in the scene. The character, you put their dialogue under there. You need to like title all your scenes, interior, day, or living room, night, kind of. It's very to the point now, whereas in the novels, it's very descriptive. You're going to have to make them be able to imagine and see it, whereas script writing, the actors have to act it out for you to kind of see it, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah, because, and actually I can touch on the screenwriting part, because, like, it's hard. Like, I went to Celtics and looked at it, and I just couldn't figure out the program, so I just, what the hell, and just started writing in Microsoft Word, which everyone just looked at me like I was crazy for doing that. But yet again, most people are crazy who do it. So, but yeah, it's just, I remember writing down, like, actually I did a fight scene in my film, Cosplay Life. And all I know is I just wrote down, I have to get beat up. That's all I wrote. And we took like 2 days just to figure out how we wanted to beat me up. And they beat me up pretty good, and it was fun. So... Hey, I willingly threw myself into that fence. I enjoyed it. Yes, sir. Oh, no, you're just like, yes, I agree.
Kind of like a follow-up to that, like, is it more difficult to, like, translate dialogue into the screenplay? Because I feel like sometimes in fiction it, like, works better on the page than it is, like, actually saying it out loud. Is there anything you have to, like, tweak or something?
Actually, I'm going to answer first, because I can say this from the acting perspective. And I'm not going to use the film that I made. I'm going to use other films that I've done, because I've been handed scripts before where it will say it one way, and then they want you to say it one way, but it's not clear on how they really want you to say it at the same time. So when you look at the script and you go, okay, I think I get it. Let me work with the other actors first and see how it should play out. And then, of course, the director would tell you, oh, well, why don't you try doing it this way? And then once you hear it verbally from the director sometimes, that's when you can actually make that dialogue really come out more. And improvisation also works a lot well, too.
Yeah, I was saying my short films, I wrote out what they would say. The actors took the script, and when I watched it back later, they improv, reworded it in their style, their way. So I think they just kind of took it as a starting point to do their thing with. I mean, it was basically the same general point of the dialogue.
Yeah, and like with Cosplay Life, when I wrote it as a serious romantic drama, and it became a chick flick. So it's a rom-com. So that's what we ended up doing as the actors for that script. We took it from what was supposed to be a darker, serious tone into a more lighthearted, with still some seriousness to it, to legitimate drama that can happen in real life. That's what I was trying to portray. But we put a light side to it with some comedy, so... Yes, ma'am.
Who are some of your favorite authors? People like you read or follow?
Oh, I love Charlene Harris, Anne Rice, J. Suzanne Frank. She's not, I don't think many people know her, but her books are fabulous. Oh gosh, there's so many. Just so many authors. And I like not just romance, I like reading other, like crime novels and mystery novels. Dan Brown. Love Dan Brown. And Lee Child. He's amazing. He wrote the Jack Reacher series. I actually got to meet him. He's really nice. Yeah, those are probably my tops.
Have you actually read they actually did 2 books based off the show Spartacus. One was actually right after Spartacus became champion of Capua, and the other one I think was... I haven't read the second book yet, so I can't really remember. But have you read the Spartacus books based off the TV show?
I have not read that. I didn't even know they had Spartacus books.
There's actually 2 of them out there. One's called Swords and Ash, and Moratori is the other one. Yeah, I'm like halfway through the first one. Life gets in the way sometimes when reading, so yeah, and I read comic books more than I read. He's like smiling, going, yeah.
Who authored the books?
Oh man, I can't name the authors at this time.
But they were writers from the actual
No, they weren't. They weren't actual writers from the show. They were actual legit book authors, and I think it might have been the same guy who did it. I can't remember off the top of my head. If you actually go on the Amazon and you type in Spartacus and you go in the Department of Books, it should be in there.
I think it ties in with like the first.
Yeah, it does. It actually, like I said, the first book actually is immediately after Spartacus becomes champion of Capua and Crixus is on the shelf, and they're actually traveling out to him, Barca. No, Danicus is not there yet. This is while they're still in the under Batiatus. It's Batiatus, Lucretia, Ilithia, Barca, Spartacus. Jai Courtney's name is Varro. Yes, Varro is still alive in the book, and yeah, Asher's in it. Well, I don't remember much of Asher at that time, but yeah, they actually go up because there is a rebel or a slave rebellion in a house, and apparently, not to give too much away, but Batiatus has a lot in common with the head of that house, and so they go for the funeral, and there's gladiatorial games that they do, and I haven't gotten the rest of the book, so I can't spoil it for you at all because I haven't seen it or read it yet. But yeah, it's very well done, and it actually is a good tie-in for the show because it does clean up some things. Like, well, what happened during these time frames when, from the time Spartacus became champion to when Crixus actually got better, what went on during that time. So it actually was cool. And then the second book, I haven't read it yet, so I think that's actually after... No, that's actually with Batiatus still alive, too. So, yeah. Some more tie-ins during that first season, actually.
Very cool. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah. So go to Amazon, type up Spartacus, look in the Department of Books, and they should be there. I'm sorry, I don't have the authors on my mind, so... But, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, Kristin, talk about visualization. How you choose your words to describe your scene.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like I say, when I see the plot, when I think of the stories, it plays out in my head like a movie. So I just write it exactly how you would probably see it on film. That's just how my thoughts come to my head. Description-wise, I don't have a lot of, I guess you would say, fluff in there. It's straight to the point, straight action. Sometimes there's a great long detailed sentence and then there's a little blunt sentence. That's kind of what you're talking about, I guess. Yeah, descriptive words. In my books, I have to stay away from a lot of modern words. Because it makes it takes you out. It makes it a little unrealistic when you're starting to use modern things. And that's when I have my editing done. I say, please make sure there's nothing modern in there in the description, something that just would not make sense in ancient Roman time. Yeah, and and you find yourself, and they catch a few things, so that would not have been a word used. So yeah, and I have to do a lot of research on that too. What would not work back then too? You've seen in the books, the description. I use a lot of Latin words or terms, and I have a glossary in the front of Amara and Champion. Have it in the front. The scrolls, it's in the back. I changed it around because I figured, people weren't seeing it in the back. But yeah, I'll have the words up here, so people don't have to Google things they don't know if they're not into this genre already. If they're not big Spartacus fans, if you're a Spartacus fan, you're gonna know this stuff already. But yeah, it's just there for everybody. It's a quick little reference and stuff. Did I answer your question? I'm just not sure. I got on a tangent.
Well, I mean, that's the key thing for anything writing-wise, because I'm actually writing the next 3 films, actually. It's a trilogy that I'm writing. I'm writing an actual story. I'm not putting any dialogue in it, because that's what we're going to do when we transfer it into the screenplay. I'm giving my screenwriter the ideas in the story of what I kind of want them to say, but not forcing it, because obviously when we film it, we may change the dialogue anyways. I just wanted to give them the plot ideas of what I wanted, and the first story is done, or the first film story is done. The second story film is halfway done, and I remember writing it out, and like with you, you have it play out in your head, and I actually have all 3 films played out in my head how I want them done. I was actually talking to Anna Hutchison about it, because, yeah, anyone who knows what past work that she's done, you can take the hint. Most of my listeners probably will, because I nerd out over it all the time. Power Rangers.
I wondered because when I write, I don't think about any of it. I don't plan any of it ahead. I just let it come to me. And so I just kind of wondered how that worked with you. But you actually, what you're saying is you can plan it out and see it going on.
I have to visualize, and I look at pictures of things to describe things, like the villas in my stories, the layouts. I sketch things so I can describe them better, because I want you to feel like you're actually maybe moving through the courtyards to the bridges, the villas.
And another thing is that, like, especially when you want to make a movie, and we're not going for like futuristic or anything, it's like when you see it in your head, it has to be almost realistic in a way. It's not something that's like, oh, this would be so great if we did this, and it just went into this what the heck just happened type deal. It go into another universe. It wouldn't make sense. So playing with it in your head first, and then like sketching it out what you want to do, or just like bullet pointing, oh, like this would work, but this probably wouldn't work, as you mess around with it. The visualization really does help bring it out when you write it out.
Especially with the ancient settings. I swear I do 90% research, 10% writing when I put the book together, because to imagine what the inside the villa looks like, not only do I just, oh, there's a mural on the wall. No, I go and I sit there, and they take place in Herculaneum and the first two, and then also in Capua. And I'll research who are the patron gods of the city, who would they have on their frescoes on their walls, and why. And in Amara, I remember she's decorating her villa when they get it. And I put very strategic things on the wall, and when you read them, they have a reason. There's a reason for them, why she has this goddess, or why she has this scene of Hercules fighting. He's the patron god of Herculaneum. So everything has a reason in the books, especially in the descriptions. There's not just anything thrown in there like, oh, yep, there's a statue of Athena or whoever. Yeah. Little undertones to the plot that way. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You say it takes you about 90% is research. When you're researching things like that, you're just history books, or you're kind of... I love half-price books, and I could live in there. I go, and they have great history sections, archaeology sections. I'll go pick up books on ancient Rome, gladiators. There's the eruption in there, so about Mount Vesuvius, Pompeii, Herculaneum. I try to watch documentaries if I see stuff on TV, and I'll set my DVR to record this and this and this, so I can just get more knowledgeable all the time, always learning about it to make it more accurate. And when I'm writing, I'm a little bit of a night owl, and I stay up pretty late. So when my kids go down, maybe I take a break, gather some snacks, because I lunch while I write. It's awful. So about 11 o'clock, I sit there, and I'll be writing. If there's a good scene that doesn't need much research, I'll just bang that out real quick. And then I'll get to something where I need to describe it. And I'm like, okay, so I need to actually look this up. And then before I know it, an hour or two's passed by, and I've read this, and I got interested in reading something else, and that actually inspires something future on the novel. Like, I was even on Facebook once, and I followed some ancient Roman sites, and there was a picture of a vase, and I went and researched about that and found out it was the great scene in the end of Immortal Champion with the...
We now have music! Hey, I don't have to put bed music in now. How about that?
And so not only, I'm writing, then researching, and then getting more ideas also for different things, even settings, sceneries, and stuff.
And then, actually, because you brought up documentaries, I've actually written a documentary, which is supposed to be getting filmed next year.
Very cool.
And
what's it about?
About the Caps. It's about the Washington Capitals. But it actually takes a lot of, like she said, 90% research, like 10% writing it. I literally spent a year researching my documentary. And because when the events that I wrote about happened, I was actually 11 years old. So I remember certain things because I was a kid. But as an adult, when you look back at it, it's like, whoa, I didn't know that happened or this happened. And then it actually helped create a better story while doing the research. And I remember pitching it to the Caps, and they're just like, wow. We didn't even remember that stuff. I went up to one of the guys who played on the team and said, this is what you did in the very first game. And he's like, I can't even remember what I did yesterday. So research really does help develop anything, if you think about it, no matter what you do project-wise.
Mm-hmm. If your story, if you do go to production movie-wise, or how hands-on do you think you'll be with that? I mean, costuming, materials for wardrobe, is that something you are interested in being in control of, or do you
No, that I could totally step back from. There's better experts on the costuming, the setting, everything. I would, because I like to screenwrite, I would take it on with maybe another person, more experienced person, but I would love to, not be a control freak about it, but have input and make sure my stories didn't get destroyed, changed too much, just to make sure they're still how they were, to keep original integrity, I guess you could say.
And more stories will come, do you think, after these three? You still have?
Yes, I have another, idea going on right now. I've been, plotting it for a couple weeks, and actually even have the title already. But this one it's going off on the characters. This is 2,000 years of their existence, and it's going to be stepping a little bit away from the gladiators and moving on to another section. So it might turn out to be kind of a spin-off series, but it's going to have the characters in it. A lot of people came and they messaged me. They're like, I want to know more about this character. He went off. What happened in his life after this? So, and I've had stories for them. I know in my head what happens to them. It's not out because maybe they weren't the main character. So I would like to go back and touch on them more and let people know what happened there. Yeah.
What is something you mentioned that you like to munch on snacks while you write? What other little like bad habits you would say you would have when you're actually writing? Because I actually when I write everything, I'm actually watching Spartacus.
My bad habit, I
which
need
explains a lot
to
for
shut off my social media because I will. I will get distracted with Messenger and be like, hey, when I get that little bit of writer's block, and then I'll be like, I'll get back to it in a minute. And it does, like I said before, you've spent 5-6 hours and you're trying to look at, okay, I've got a couple thousand words. I maybe didn't hit my goal for the night. So yeah, definitely that's just something that, it's too many distractions, even at night when there shouldn't be distractions. I don't usually have anything on. I like to sit at my dining room table with the light on, silence, blinds closed, everything, because I don't even put music on. Now, music does inspire me when let's say I go to the gym or I'm cleaning my house and I'm hearing some kind of music or something. It actually can inspire a scene. I'm thinking, oh my God, like I guess the emotions you get from the music, and you put it to your characters, and there's a scene you're stuck on maybe, and it just plays it out for me. So that's where music comes in hand for me. But no, when I'm writing, it has to be totally silent.
Totally silent.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to have something on in the background. I've had, well, actually, this was the inside joke because when I wrote the actual dialogue for Cosplay Life, I was watching Spartacus the entire time, and everyone was like, "Well, that explains why the dialogue is this style because I'm listening to the dialogue of Spartacus while writing to write it out." So it's like. I've had Family Guy on in the background before too while writing that, and that's actually how I got some of the comedy lines in there. Because why not?
I wouldn't write. I would just be watching. It's too distracting for me.
I work better when I have something on in the background.
Everybody has their own way, though.
Yeah. The only time I can't do that is when I'm doing this podcast. And anytime I do this podcast, nothing can be on because my microphones will pick up everything. So, any questions for Kristin?
Earlier you were talking about the difference between writing and screenplay. Do you find that when you're doing the screenplay, it's just completely technical, but when you write it from a more emotional place, do your words come more emotionally from you? Or
yes, it is a big difference, exactly like you said. It is more technical for me when I write the screenplay. I have a mission, I have a goal, and like I said, the two that I did were for challenges. So we would get the challenge around 7 o'clock at night. In Arizona, it'd be an hour ahead from me here, and I'd be on the phone with my team, and I'd have to bang out a script in about an hour or two. They'd get feedback, I'd make a revision, send it back as quick as I can because, the next day we're already in production, we're filming. So the screenwriting I did to begin with was already under pressure. So it is straight to the point. When I'm writing my novels, yes, they can sit there and just pour my heart into the character. And I've even cried at a couple of my characters' deaths too. I sit there and I'm like, oh God. And I have a friend, and she actually started out as a fan because she loved one of my characters who died, and she's like, can you bring him back to life somehow, please? And I'm like, I really could think of a way. I probably could, because everything to do with the paranormal, I'm sure there's a way I could. But he was involved in the love triangle, and I don't think love triangles work out. It just someone does lose, and I wouldn't want him to lose. Unfortunately, he died for her. I think it was more of a romantic way to go.
All right, we have, just real quick before you ask, we have about 9 minutes left.
Okay.
Speaking about characters, what is the process of creating characters? Is this like something that's kind of happened out of the blue, or do you actually go through, this person's like this person's like that? How do you go from character to character?
I guess depending on the storyline and where they're going, they all have, the characteristics and everything just kind of come to me as I know the story. If there's the bad guy in the story, he's just going to be everything you hate about him. The girls, they're usually, actually they're very different, the heroines. In Immortal Scrolls, she's very, very soft kind of a person, very delicate. Now in Immortal Champion, she is a strong, determined woman. And so it really depends on the plot line, how the characters develop, definitely. And they've changed too throughout the story. So,
do you plan that beforehand, or as the story goes along?
No, that kind of takes on a life of its own as I'm writing it. I'll have some kind of a character idea in mind, the storyline, and sometimes it can just go off. Like they develop how it, I don't know, it just comes. They change, they come to life.
Yeah, I mean, because like when I wrote Cosplay Life, I actually had a set way of how I wanted the characters to be. But as I was writing, I realized certain changes had to be made down the road to make things make sense too. Mm-hmm. So you want them to be a certain way, but then as you keep writing and you keep developing the story, you start going, well, I want them to be this way, but I have to do minor changes to help them maybe improve the character itself.
And
too.
The characters should grow and change. I think it makes them more dynamic. So you wouldn't want a flat character to stay the same way. No growth, no development. Even in the short stories that I write, they develop. They're definitely,
All right. Any other questions? Any last questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Do you have any tips for overcoming writer's block? And even just small writer's block if you're stuck on a scene, what have you? How do you
Yeah, actually, do you have a couple tips that work for me? The first thing I try to do is step away completely for a little bit and go back to what inspires you. Like for me, maybe in music, maybe if you're, I'll throw on Spartacus for a little bit and watch it and get in that, Roman kind of mood or something like that. Now, another time, you'll have a chapter and you'll have a really great scene for the next chapter, but you are stuck. How do you bridge that? How do you start this next chapter? So what I've learned to do is not stress and sit there over a paragraph of how to open it, and I'll just skip it, and I'll, leave a little space, or I'll start another document so I can just copy and paste it back in there. I'll start on that next scene, get that good, it's flowing, get that out, and keep writing as long as I can. And normally later, that bridge, that connection comes back to me, and I can fill that in and write that in. It'll come to me later. So it's just a good thing, just to step away from it. Don't think about it. Don't stress it. Don't stare at your screen. Just either go back to your inspiration or move on.
SpartaCon, the midday fight will take place in the arena at 11:45 a.m. by the DC Stunt Coalition Gladiators.
And
once again, the midday fight will take place in the arena at 11:45 a.m.
And that is our cue to start doing the wrap up. So, Kristin, plug your books, plug yourself. How can people find you?
You can find the books on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. But if you go to Amazon.com, they are all on Kindle.
Do you mind, good Phil? We are trying to record here. How dare you disrespect us?
Dustin, Wynn, and Ellen.
I will fight you right here, good speaker, sir.
Take place in the Lucas Lounge at 12:15.
You know.
So they are on Kindle Unlimited if you have that Kindle Unlimited program, the special that you subscribe to. They're also just regular Kindle, so they're lendable too. And you can, if you want signed copies, because you can buy the paperbacks online. But if you want a signed copy, you can order them through PayPal, and I'll ship them to you.
And then how can they find you online?
Oh, you can find me on Facebook. Got a couple of Facebook pages. The main one that I respond to those, facebook.com/The Immortal Scrolls. And I'm also on Twitter at Author, actually it's just at Kristin Secorsky. And I'm on Instagram at Author Kristin Secorsky. So yeah, Facebook's the best way though. I respond to messages pretty much immediately.
Right behind the Lucas Lounge.
And don't hesitate to, if you read them, you want to give me feedback. I love hearing feedback.
And of course, I am Michael, the host of this podcast that has been interrupted so many times now at the very end. You can follow me on Twitter at the Lindenbaum75 and on Facebook at facebook.com/X. Really? I'm just going to go Ms. now. Just go really, just constantly. And of course, you can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/X75 Productions. It is where I do all the stuff for all the podcasts that I do, because I have two. I'm on. Shut up already! Let me end this. This is yesterday all over again, man. That's where all my podcast stuff gets put up. I do it on put it up on YouTube. You just look up X75 Productions on YouTube. And then, So this has been the experience with Kristin Secorsky live at SpartaCon. Thank you to everyone who came out today.
Thank you.